Grit with Grace is brought to you by Zoetis. Your dedication runs deep, and it fuels everything Zoetis does. To protect and support cattle and those who care for them, we are born of the bond. Learn more at bornofthebond.com.
Well, just 7 weeks ago, wild winds sparked uncontrollable wildfires, and the wildfire wounds are still fresh. But from the flames is a staggering story of survival, as we show you this week in Grit with Grace. Barres Ranch is a staple in western Kansas.
My great-granddad, a mile west of here, homesteaded in the late 1880s.
But today, Paradise, Kansas looks far from a dream destination.
Looks like a desert, or moonscape, maybe somebody described it as. It's kind of hard to look at, really.
What can be lush landscape with the right conditions is now charred and scarred.
It was December 15th. It was a Wednesday.
Stephanie is Ken's daughter. She and her husband David live and ranch with the family on their homestead.
It wasn't tornado weather. It wasn't hail weather. It was just, you could just sense that there was something different.
With wind warnings, not even those were enough to prepare this area for what was about to hit, as what they believe were downed power lines sparked a fire that changed their fate.
About 2:30 in the afternoon, our neighbors to the north and west of us, Craig and Jolene Lawson, they called and they said, hey, there's a fire. And they said that it's headed towards our house. Could you guys bring a couple of trucks and trailers over and help us evacuate our horses?
With that, they took off. David and their son in one truck and trailer, and Stephanie and their son's roommate in another truck.
We got over to their house. We pull into their driveway. Craig meets us there and he's like, hey, the fire's already here.
Seeing the fire on the horizon, they jumped in to head back east toward their ranch when the truck and trailer flipped over from the high winds.
Those three ran back and jumped in with me. And at this point, we can't necessarily see the flames, but we can feel the heat.
But they didn't even get 100 yards north and the fire was already crossing the highway. So they turned around.
Craig called and he said, hey, Jolene's still in the house. He said, you guys need to go and grab her.
So they did. What they didn't know at the time is the wildfires were so furious, it tore through a 25-mile path in about 18 minutes.
It's blowing so hard, it would have been jumping a half a mile to a mile at a time.
And at that point, they were trapped.
The fire trucks meet us at the end of their driveway, and they're like, no, you can't go west. There's another fire coming over the top of this fire.
So they followed the tanker truck and two rural fire trucks into a green winter wheat field that the firefighters knew would provide the least amount of fuel for the fire.
And this is all volunteer firemen. I mean, at this point, it is our local neighbor. I mean, people that we have known our entire lives.
And with that, those volunteer firefighters came up with a plan to try to survive.
We're gonna sit here and we're gonna wait it out, and the tanker's gonna pour water over the top of us when the fire gets close.
She says with a limited amount of water left in the tank, they didn't turn the water on until the fire was closing in.
We're sitting in the middle of the wheat field, and when the fire came over, Grady's best friend Tyler was on the back of the fire truck. And he was outside spraying us with water. Sorry. He was the one that was outside spraying all the trucks with water.
This video shows you just how close they were to not surviving that day, with this ring of green, the only thing that didn't burn. Thankful to be alive, the Dickersons didn't know if their own ranch and livestock were caught in the flames too.
We got about 1.5 miles, 2 miles from our house, and I could see that the house was on fire.
They lost nearly all their personal belongings, except the clothes on their back.
Well, it was the next morning when it got daylight that we really could assess the damage and start finding the cattle.
200 head of their cattle gone. But what happened hours after Barres Ranch was devastated by the fires is where the story gets better.
In the next about 3 days, we shipped most of our cows to other locations. We had friends that you really don't know what kind of friends you have until something like this happens.
600 head of cattle that were immediately taken in by friends up to 450 miles away.
Physical donations from Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Colorado, Nebraska, Missouri, Kentucky, Iowa, the Dakotas.
As much as anything, letting you know that there's still really good people left in the world.
Some of that relief has come from people the Stelos and Dickersons know personally, others from people they've never met.
You see behind me the pile of hay. There was just a constant stream of hay trucks bringing hay in that people had donated. It was kind of overwhelming. It really was.
A convoy of hay trucked in from hundreds of miles away.
I had a friend tell me this last weekend that we were so lucky because the people that all showed up, the people that have sent donations, a lot of people don't see how much you affect other people's lives until your funeral. And they said basically you got to attend your funeral, but you're still alive to tell about it. For that, I will forever be grateful.
It's not just rebuilding houses and barns. Pastures are unrecognizable, and miles upon miles of fencing will need to be replaced. We'll show you how that steady stream of help is continuing in Paradise next.
Over 10,000 years ago, mankind first domesticated cattle. At this exact same time, cattle domesticated us. Our two species have worked together and taken care of each other for centuries. Zoetis is today's advanced answer to that ancient bond. We help make it stronger, healthier, more robust. We are born of the bond.